This is the planning board meeting for February 10th. And at 7 o'clock, under general business, we have a letter of resignation from Mariam Sanderson. Did a great job, but her health doesn't allow her to be on the planning board anymore, so we're gonna have a discussion about having a second alternate.
Right, so you have to make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen to appoint somebody to fill the rest of Miriam's term, which she was appointed, so her term is annual. Just until roughly June, and then that member would get the same thing other appointed members get from the selectmen, just asking if they wish to remain on the board. So the board has to decide who of the two associates they want to fill that position, just until June, and then if they want to stay, they would stay.
Jenny, you sure those appointed positions are only 1 year? They're annual? I thought they were.
Actually, you know what? You're right.
Years.
They are 3 years. I think hers is up.
Hers was up, I think, this year.
I think it's up. So,
Okay.
I mean, I can verify that, but I'm pretty sure hers was up.
Do we?
But go ahead.
Go ahead.
But I will say, if Kyle wants to take the position, I'd be happy to stay the alternate, because I know I have a lot of stuff going on, especially in the next year or so. If that's okay with the board, and that's okay with Kyle.
I'm willing to step up.
It's fine with me.
So I need a motion to recommend that the selectmen appoint Kyle to fill the rest of Miriam's term, basically.
I'll second that.
And I think it expires this year, but we can double check that.
I'll second that.
No, I'm not making that motion.
I'll make the motion.
All right. Good.
Second that.
Wally Baker, second by Scott Paul.
And then also just for next, before the next meeting, because the vice is going to be the next president, what we also think about is planning ahead and having an alternate, a second person, because the planning board needs people who come in and show up like you do. We need to have a quorum. If you all show up, we don't have a quorum. We've never ever made very sure to make sure we have people here so we can move things on our agenda, as opposed to in some towns, not necessarily Sutton, where you don't have anyone there and nothing can happen. So, and for me, it's important to have someone that's on the planning board that I believe doesn't come with an agenda. I like to see different parts of town from a whole bunch of different backgrounds, so they have different things to say that we don't think about. I don't think we haven't had any luck with anyone from Manchog. Needs to get someone from that lives down there that would have Monday, every other Monday would be good.
Our district chief and the fire department would love to do it, but their trainings
To
are
work on Monday
Monday.
nights, yeah, so, that certainly, and also Wilkinsonville, where we've been spending a lot of time in. We have Wally, but they're gonna be well served, and decisions are be made in that part of town, so if there's any.
And Mike is
We
up
got
in the
Mike
neighborhoods.
now, yeah.
So yeah, so you got Wally down near Boston, and we got Mike up in the neighborhood, so that's great.
This changes, it's just important that we have
Diverse.
a whole bunch of different people. And Jen reminded us once, we had no females.
Now Miriam left us again.
Yeah, so Marion was proud.
We used to
do
have
it.
a huge representation from West Sutton, and now we don't have any West Sutton.
Yeah.
And we haven't been blessed with somebody from Manchog at all.
Yeah.
So,
So for the millions that are watching, all you do is ask,
you're a
and
woman, or you're from Manchog, or
and
you're
you
from
take
West
it from
Sutton,
there.
or all
You're
of the
probably
above.
on the inside track, but good, okay. I have the minutes for the January 27th.
Can I have a vote on that?
Yeah, we need a vote.
From
Yeah, we need a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, we, a motion to
That's
put
a motion.
Kyle in the slot.
Got the
All those in
motion, we got
favor?
the second.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Okay, thank you, Bill.
Am I the acting member tonight?
Oh, thank you, Kyle.
Yes, yes, and he's the acting member tonight, or Bill's the acting member tonight.
We can
You
let
might as well make.
Yeah.
Then I abstain.
You abstain, so that's a 4-0-1. Okay, so the minutes.
Okay, minutes for the January 27th. Need someone to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes from January 27th.
Thank you,
Second.
thank you. Any additions, subtractions, everything's fine? I think they're fine. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? I'm sorry. 1-0-0, you're all set. Filings,
No filings.
A Form A plan for 23 Jones Road.
Absolutely. I did add that to your electronic files. If you didn't see it earlier, it's in there now.
Not sure whose easel this is,
Go for it.
hopefully. If anyone wants to object, then,
It's for your use.
Is anyone here
That's
for
fine.
this? For Jones? No. If anyone-
Besides the engineer, you mean?
Okay, just if anyone wants to sit right up front, that's a good spot.
Got some reduced size copies. Also have the previous plan clipped to the back. May help if the lines seem a little confusing.
You've seen this before, right?
That's right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Evening, my name is Brian Andrews, I'm a professional engineer with Survey and Engineering. Representing, Mr. and Mrs. Skatanis, tonight. And, what we would like to do is reconfigure some lot lines to the plan previously on record. That's this plan right here, dividing 3 lots on Jones Road. Technically, it was 2 lots and a parcel, it would still be 2 lots and a parcel, although the third parcel, we would, intend to apply for a retreat lot special permit at a later point. The existing configuration of the lots right here, they're kind of slightly pie-shaped. Turn it this way so that people can see it too. They're somewhat pie-shaped. Our client would like to reconfigure it, to get more, to have more buildable area and yard area closer to Jones Road. So lot 2, instead of being somewhat pie-shaped, would be more rectangular, leaving a 50-foot wide corridor to get to the rear of the land, which would be lot 3, which would be lot 3 right applied for a special permit. Currently, it's labeled as not a buildable lot without further action by the planning board. Now, I don't believe there are any issues with lot 2R. I was before the board about a month or 6 weeks ago to just sort of raise the subject of what would be lot 3. Lot 3 has sufficient width and area to be a retreat lot. However, it does not have sufficient contiguous area. Well, I say that, and actually what I mean to say is this area here is a contiguous upland area of, I believe, 125, almost 126,000 square feet. The bylaw doesn't actually, well, actually, I think the bylaw does say that it needs to be contiguous. These areas aren't contiguous, but the total area would be about 225,000 square feet, quite a bit in excess of the 144,000 square feet that is required. Again, we wouldn't be applying for that as a retreat lot tonight, however, I imagine it will certainly be part of the discussion as we look at this lot here.
So should that be called Lot 3 or parcel?
Yeah, it should say part, it should be called part.
We did label it as a non-buildable parcel, though, to make it clear that it's not a buildable
not a buildable lot. I thought we had that discussion that parcel and lot.
Usually we call those parcels, non-buildable. I just wanna read that.
It is labeled parcel on the old set of plans.
Yeah, on the old set of plans, I think it was, right? Yeah, it was labeled as parcel A on the other side. Retreat lots. Well, and we had talked about, the point of making the area of a retreat lot has to be triple, but that there's really no functional reason why the upland should have to be triple, cause it's still just for one house. So that the only reason you do that is kinda limit what kind of, large area can be used for developments. So those retreat lots will be drier than they would otherwise be. So, but there's no, it's one house. So if you only need 48,000 square feet of a 80,000 square foot lot, you only need 48,000 square feet of a 5.5 acre lot. So,
bigger.
but right now, it does say it requires 3 times the upland. It, as Byron pointed out, it does not say that in that case it has to be contiguous.
Right,
Because
I
that,
think we talked about that and said, I think we concurred it it didn't have to be contiguous.
Yeah.
okay, great.
That was my take,
Right.
I might be mistaken.
I remember this.
Any other board members' comments? Byron, I'm starting to understand. I like the clearing that says not buildable without further action, as opposed to saying not a buildable lot, cause that tends to think you can't build on it, someone comes back and builds on it, and I'm always, troubled with that one. I wanna make very sure that the planning board, with an action, doesn't create a self-imposed hardship on the property of this, owner. So, and I don't see that, except I'm trying to find 50 feet on the street, and I only see 47.59 feet. Is there some more feet?
Yeah, there is. If you look at the detail that's on the far right-hand side, there's a small bend there's a bend in the lot, and a small portion of the frontage of lot 3 is on that bend. So the 47.59 feet is on the long straight section, and there is, I believe, actually, there's 2 distances, 2.41 plus 0.22, which would be 2.63 feet in addition. So the actual frontage of the lot, and I listed it down here below, would be 50.22 feet, and the minimum width would be 50 feet.
I'm still finding 50 feet. Show me on this one here.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to see it on here?
Yeah, so this green line here would be the lot line here, so you would have the 47.59 feet plus 2.41 feet plus 0.22 feet.
2.41, okay,
Yeah.
got it, okay.
I know it's a little confusing, and the distances on the end are so small that it's kind of hard to pick them up.
And we have 250 exactly on the middle part now. I'm trying to do the feet there.
Exactly 50 feet, yeah,
Exactly, okay.
yeah.
47 point what?
47.59 on one section, then there's a bend. And on
2.41.
the bend section, there's,
So you're over.
50.22, yeah.
yeah, there's a little more frontage, which you need to keep the perpendicular width exactly 50 feet.
Another round
Well, we
peg.
run parallel to the road now. The new definition of lot width is parallel to the road at 50 feet back, so does that work? Do you go,
It would be slightly more then, because it's at an angle, so if you're going parallel, you'd have a little more than just,
parallel to the road feet back. So if you're, as long as you're at or over 50, so you probably need to adjust that line to be consistent with the definition.
Parallel to the road.
Same thing, and that was one of my comments that I would have given to you, but I really wanted you to come do this in front of the board, is that it looks like you're showing lot width along that straight line distance on lot 2 as well.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so we
according
changed
to
the
the old-
definition of lot width,
Yeah.
so now the lot width is measured parallel to the road, so both those lot width lines just need to be corrected.
What if the lot has an angle to it? What if the road has an angle to it?
Then you're following the angle. So like on see how
Oh, I
there's a
see.
setback line here?
It doesn't, so the parallel line doesn't have to be straight.
No, so basically, the front width line becomes see, he's got the building setback laid in on lot 2. That basically becomes the lot width line,
Okay. See,
but you're measuring, cause that's 50 feet back.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just gonna draw a lot width line on top of that front setback line and give me the measure. And that, as long as you're confident that that's over 250,
Yes, definitely.
yeah, I would think.
That would be a little bit more than what we're talking.
Any question from any other board members? Anyone in the public? Any questions, comments, observations?
Now, I did ask
It's,
Byron, because you'll recall, this is the same lot where we had some issues with this wetland delineation there that now cuts off, or might cut off, this contiguous wetland area. So I did ask him on this part of the lot where you would have access from the street, if he is confident there's a dry connection there, basically, so you're not doing a wetland crossing, cause as you know, when you slice up a lot, you're still only entitled to one wetland crossing, and that would need to be on this retreat lot. So, see how we have the little pond there? I just wanted to make sure that to the right of the pond, between the edge of the pond and the corner pin there on lot 2, that there was dry access in there. And Byron noted that he was going by the wetland delineation, and he was confident there would be dry passage there, basically.
But is there a reason you couldn't cross to the left of this pond?
Well, you've got a
That's one
wetland-
crossing, right?
Just one crossing on the total parcel,
On this parcel
on the.
to our.
All three of them?
Yeah, cause it was one big blob of land, they
Okay.
split it into 3 lots, you can still only cross once on that.
Oh, okay.
So you can't chop it into 82,000 lots to get 82,000 crossings. And if you chop it up, you still are only entitled to 1.
And the retreat lot is gonna have to,
crossing.
they're gonna
That's
have
gonna
to.
have a crossing in lot 3?
Yeah,
Okay.
that will require the front.
That's it.
So can we put that in the approval, those requirements?
What?
Our understanding is that the driveways are gonna come in at this point and this point to satisfy this wetland crossing issue.
Well, this is a Form A plan, so you don't really get conditions, you either sign it or you don't. So, but I think the minutes will reflect that the question was asked, you know, is there dry access from Jones Road directly into lot 2? And, the surveyor stamping this plan is saying, yes, there is, that you don't need to do a crossing to get into lot 2.
So the only wetland crossing for this large parcel is on the potentially future retreat lot at the end of the throat,
That's correct.
and that's understood. I'll make a motion to approve the division of land at 23 Jones Road dated December 16, 2019.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
should we amend to change lot 3 to parcel?
Yeah, I recommend that we not endorse the plan, or the board not endorse the plan until that's changed to parcel and the lot width lines are corrected. If you're okay with that. If we
That's
can
part of my
so
motion.
amend that motion, Mr. Paul.
That's part of my motion.
Okay.
We're happy, Byron's happy, okay?
Yep.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job, Byron.
Just get me back tomorrow, and that's all set, and 3 copies, and I'll sign.
Okay.
Can you send me a reminder, you asked a question about zoning lines? You asked a question about the width of zoning districts or something like that. If you can resend me that, I just today found that, shows that, so if you remind me, then I'll remember to. Okay.
Okay, thank you. On 219 Witness Road, we have a new tenant. Welcome to town. Come on in.
So you'll recall at your last meeting, you got some preliminary information on this gentleman with the metal roofing company. So that's who is before you tonight, the metal roofing company guy. So, there were some potential other tenants buzzing around, but this is the metal roofing guy that you did get the information on last time. So, this is the only one you're talking to tonight. So, you can just tell the board about you, about your business,
Sure.
and whatever else they ask you.
Okay, my name's Adam Rosario, and I've been in business for about 2.5 years now. And, I run a metal roofing company, but we do not only do metal roofing, we do flat roofing, and we do asphalt roofing as well. We don't touch slate, and, that's really about it. We don't do any type of asbestos removal, anything like that. We leave that for other guys to do. So we're a 5-star company on Google, 5-star on Home Advisor, and, you know, we take pride in the work and what we do.
How many employees would they at your site?
It could be anywhere between 1 to 4 right now. I really don't know. This is my first time actually getting out of my house and putting it into, you know, a growing position.
Okay.
So, vehicles would probably be, maybe 1 to 4 if people, you know, if employees are coming in with their own vehicle. Maximum I would see in the future would be like 2 on location. Maybe a truck to load up and drive off the metal, and then, you know, another vehicle maybe to store like a little van or something.
You would take delivery of the product, put it in the garage that's on site, your garage, right, and then take it to the job.
Correct, yep. So we have, my goal is to be a full production company, so we'll be able to do everything other than make the coil that comes in off the trucks, and basically fabricate all of our metal and run it out the door. It's all of our sites that we sell.
So you take it off a roll, that's how it comes,
Mm-hmm.
colored roll.
Yep, color coded, and they come in, you know, a couple thousand pounds, but we have a fork truck and a machine to load it on and roll it out.
And how does that get delivered?
By like a flatbed Mack truck. And the property's large enough to swing it around, we pick it up, drive it in, they're gone.
How often do the deliveries come?
They'll probably come maybe once, max twice a week. Cause I'm gonna try to make bulk orders, that's how you save on, you know, large orders, and it coming from out of state.
So what was the, I'm sorry, I missed it, so the company vehicles on site, like when everybody's gone home for the night,
Mm-hmm.
how many company vehicles would
It would be
be?
max 2.
2,
Mm-hmm.
and so the whole building would really be for product, a little office,
Yeah.
and fabrication machines, or?
The only time I'd leave I was thinking maybe my little van, that's like my appointment
Mhm.
setter, and then if I have like a job going out in the morning or something, maybe I'll leave my pickup truck loaded and then drive it out the door.
And then during the day, your employees come, they park on the site, take the vehicles they need to the jobs.
Correct.
So you might have 4 employees,
Mm-hmm.
vehicles there, but the work trucks would be out on the sites
Yeah.
usually.
Mm-hmm. Typically, they'll drive their own vehicle, so if they show up at the shop, they'll take their own vehicle to the site.
Oh, to the site,
Yeah.
okay.
but sometimes we'll be in there fabricating. I don't know how large we're gonna get, but, it, you know, to get larger than 4 guys on site would be pretty tough to do right now.
So you actually have a roll of metal in the garage and you pull it out at the location and pull it to the length you want?
Yeah, so
Stack
there's a
it on the
machine
truck?
that kinda spools it out for you. So you pick it up with your fork truck and then load it on to, the machine. The machine has its own rollers, so you slide it onto that, and then it's like a pulley system that drags the metal out, rolls it through rollers and forms it out through the other end.
So you can cut it to any length you want.
Yep.
What would be the hours of doing the fabrication? Would that be something you'd be doing daytime, or would it possibly at night, or?
Well, I would say, most of the fabrication would take place from 8 to 5.
Yep.
If there was like an emergency job or something and we were rushing to get it out, it would be 8 to 8 maximum.
Okay.
I would never make the guys stay longer than 8 o'clock.
Would you have the garage doors open, do you know? I mean, I'm
No,
just
I
trying
would
to.
close them, yeah.
Okay. Is it loud?
No, it's right now the machine I'm operating is electric,
Okay.
so it's not gas powered. It's not that loud at all.
So how long is the biggest piece, just out of curiosity? How long is the longest piece you would make?
Every job, so when you work with standing seam, you wanna have one full length of run. The max I've seen so far to date has been about 50 feet, and that could cover, you know, a commercial building. Typically, commercial buildings would run like this, like
From
a
the-
gable roof.
To the eave, gable to the eave?
And then there is like commercial standard roofs that want one plane going across, but you can run into, you know, a lot of troubles with the panel running it that long, so you try to keep them a little bit shorter.
Cause you have to take it from there, you have to put it on
To
a
the
truck
site.
and move it.
Yeah,
So 50 feet is a tractor trailer
correct.
or
I'd
a
have to have a flatbed, yeah,
Okay.
which I don't plan on doing.
So it's not like gutters that you can go on site and
Right.
pull it
You
out?
can, yeah, you can. We've done that on some jobs. We've actually taken the machine with us to the location and made them on site.
What do you do with the waste? Is there any waste material involved with this process?
Very little. When you're making your metal on site, there's almost no waste. So, but when you get to the job site, that's when you create your waste, cause you have to make your
Yeah,
mets.
Get to fit it.
Yeah, yeah.
So you leave it there.
Just gonna leave it there.
Yeah, we have dumpsters on site.
Well, that was gonna be my next question.
Yeah, yeah.
Where are you gonna put all this stuff if it's at 219 or whatever?
Adam, and first of all, cause I happen to be the planning board, thank you very much for coming in. Sutton, in our planning board, we have some responsibilities. Sutton has a whole bunch of residential, not a lot of business. So we tend to try to be favorable to any business that can come in to town to help us with our whole tax system, if you will. And there's, you know, but we also all be aware of the fact that there's a whole bunch of residents that get concerned about noise, lights, stuff like that. One unfortunate thing that all of us have to do in Sutton, when you're having a business in Sutton, if you register your vehicles in Sutton, you get extorted with that excise thing every year. So it certainly sits well if this becomes your address and your commercial's address is whatever the correct number is, it's Sutton, Mass, and you can pay the excise like the big guys do with the tractor trailers, and that's just been something we expect that a businessman will do for us. And I don't have any other questions for myself as a board, but I always at the board then ask if there's anyone here who may be a resident, they have a right to be here, to say if they have any questions or concerned about the business and what you're running, and if it's gonna be a fit in the space you'll be renting from. Chris, this is their chance to talk about that. Is there anybody here? And if anyone's here, just hears about it and wants to say something, they can do that right now, but, you'll be.
Clarification on I just want a clarification on the waste. So you said most of the waste is created at the job site,
Correct.
and you have a dumpster at the job site.
Mm-hmm.
Will you also have a dumpster at this site, and if so, will it be inside?
We will not have a dumpster on site, more like barrels, take out our own waste. And if there was if we produced a large amount of waste, I would just take it to my job site and dump it in my dumpster.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all of your stuff, so the only thing outside your building that we'll see are your vehicles.
Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be a very cleanly kept location.
Great.
How many square feet are each bay that you have?
1875.
That's on one floor, that's the ground
Yes.
floor?
Yep.
And then there's a loft office type of thing?
No.
No.
No? That includes the office and the garage bay?
How many bays?
9.
No.
Oh, he's 1.
1875.
In everything that we do, I'm assuming it's gonna be favorable to have you move into that space, and I recommend that the board make that recommendation. But when you do that, then everyone goes in and does inspections, the fire department, and everything we say hinges on everyone else coming in and looking at your machine, and if they get in there and the fire department sees something, there may be some things that he needs to make sure that the property is safe for us. So this is all subject upon all the other boards saying yes too, after we say it looks like a green light, so. Are there any other comments?
This is a determination on,
Just that the tenant is,
site plan review?
Chris Windle, you'll remember when he came in for site plan approval, he got a whole bunch of special permits that included this use, or this type of use. So this gentleman doesn't need a special permit determination. You just need to decide if you're gonna waive a formal public hearing for this tenant. So you would do a motion to waive site plan review and then place any conditions like Bob talked
Right.
about, the approval of all other applicable, and if there's any other conditions you want, and then he'll be good to go.
I'll make a motion, we waive the requirement for a public hearing for the business of modern standing seam metal roofing to be located at 219 Waynes Road. This is a consistent business with the understanding of our site plan approval for that complex.
Thank you, Scott. Need a second?
Second, second,
Any other discussion?
Do you want, the standard condition?
standard conditions
Right.
With the excise tax?
and the excise tax.
You legally can't require that, but.
We can try, right?
Pretty
We can try.
We can suggest.
big hint, goes well.
Can't
Hope you
require
have to
that, but yeah.
buy a big piece of property and build a big building, and, that's, all your dreams will come true. All right, so, but, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Thank you, Adam, for coming in.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Chris.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
Good. Correspondence.
Alright, so you have the Central Mass Regional Planning Memo. This is, well, I
Can-
should probably tell you, this is what's called the CMMPO. This is, the beginning of transportation planning for the region. So anytime there's a big project like the replacement of the Blackstone Street Bridge that just was, well, is almost completed. The bridge is completed, we're working on the site work. It's a $4 million project, not gonna be paid for by the town usually, or at least not entirely. Road improvements, like, where 290 comes into 495, all of those improvements. Those are programmed with federal and state funds. They're programmed through Central Mass Regional Planning, and they show up on what's called the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Plan. This memo kind of details that process and lets you, so there's links on here, so you can go and look at that plan, see what kind of projects are on that list. And just so you know, what's going on in our region in terms of transportation planning, and kind of get familiar with how that's handled. So, if we had another transportation planning project that we wanted to bring forward, we would go through the process of applying to the CMMPO for that project, telling them basically how the town usually has to pay for land takings and engineering work on these kind of projects. And then, once that's committed to the CMMPO, will make recommendations up to the state level and the federal level of how they think those projects should be funded. So this is just that process and kind of getting you familiar with that. So that's all that is.
Okay.
The second one is our timelines for spring town meeting and elections. So the most important date on here obviously is March 13th, when the warrant closes, so we'll talk a little bit more about what we need to accomplish, or what you want to accomplish via your initiatives for the spring town meeting, for the fall town meeting, and if you might need a special in there somewhere. So those are kind of the deadlines through, spring town meeting, including, the election deadlines as well.
Okay. Good. It's 7:10, planning board time, and we did tell someone from Aggregate that
What do you leave?
we'd have it at 7:10.
Uh-oh.
Thanks for letting me on your property, I think
Keys,
other people.
anybody?
Did you guys have decent weather for your visit?
Did everyone go on the site?
Didn't make it.
Everyone get to see it, so, yeah,
Do I
it's,
need to approach?
yeah,
Yeah, come on.
it's all yours.
All right, so do you wanna see some of the site visit photos and then have the discussion? So some of them you're gonna have to look sideways. So this is one of the steeper hills, and that's Kyle.
So whose site is this?
So this is Aggregate. You'll recall on the Aggregate earth removal plans, they have to call out the active work area. This is in the active work area. So this is closer to Boston Road. And this is the tallest of the open faces on the Aggregate parcel. So we put Kyle in there so you could at least see height.
King of the hill.
It does, what you can't see, as Kyle has mentioned to me, is that it doesn't go straight up. It does tilt. Those are either animal or people footprints and a butt print right up there in the corner. So you can, I wouldn't say walk up and down this, but somebody definitely ran down it.
I didn't walk up this one, no.
So this is Kyle again, modeling the one of the typical stockpiles
This
on the
was more
site.
gravel, I believe,
Yep,
this one,
is
yeah.
gravel. This is over on the scale house side. So this is a typical stockpile. Now, these you have to look sideways at, sorry. This is me and Wally waving. We're at the bottom of a hill near the train tracks on that side. And where's the top of that hill? Hold on. This is the back side of that active slope. So the hill over here on this side is that slope. So you can see it wasn't straight up. It's kind of at an angle that Kyle was standing at the base of. This is that same, again, this is the active pit area. This is typically what an active area looks like, only there's no machines in this active area. So, and you can see the four-wheel drive tracks. So these are the typical active area. This is a washout. One of the roads that used to take you from one side to the other, the center of it washed out. So this is a ravine where the road used to be, one of the roads used to be. So that's actually, you can't tell because we didn't shove Kyle in the ravine, but it's a good sized ravine, believe it or not. And, okay, I wanna show you the.
Number 2 is the one where you can see from top and bottom.
Okay, good, great. Number 2, okay, so that's us at the bottom.
And then down one more. And that's looking up
That's
at it.
looking up that slope. So you can see it's not very tall, that slope. It's.
You can see the four-wheeler tracks right up the middle of it.
You can see the four-wheeler tracks easily.
I
But
walked up
that's
that
Kyle
one.
looking down that slope at us. So it actually looks steeper in your photograph than it actually is in reality.
Yeah, that wasn't a very steep one at all.
So these are really kind of the only open face areas other than a few stockpiles here and there. And like the one Kyle had his foot on was stone. That's not rolling or sliding anywhere, really. So it's really just kind of that active area, and that one we just looked at to some degree that causes any kind of concern, really, at all. So, Jarrett?
So is it active or not active?
No,
No.
it's not active. It's kind of misleading. You have to classify it as active,
Yeah,
but it's
okay.
actually a dormant
But it's
site.
not-
It hasn't been mined in over 8 years.
Right, so you'll remember this plan, this is the aggregate earth removal plan, and to have a permit issued, you have to show what's active. So
Okay.
this little brown parcel, that little brown area, is where these photographs are. The, face, the other one where Kyle was looking down at us was here. So, and this is all in reclamation, some of those stockpiles, one of them was over, like right there, and there were a few in here, and the washouts right in here. In this, actually, in this area.
Yeah.
So that's this area, like Jared said, nothing's been taken out of there for a long, long time, but this is why this looks like this though, because it was last the active area, so it's not in reclamation yet, like all the green and orange areas on the plan.
So, for the planning board member, and as, I hope you guys will help me. We had earth removal board that didn't have anyone coming in, so we don't have earth removal. It gets sent to the planning board, as people know now, and we didn't know anything about earth removal, so we had to all go to school and learn about 10 feet over the water and all these things that we weren't. And I asked all board members to go down and look at what you're looking at, so you can see what's. And we have a business aggregate that is in existence. It works. There just isn't enough work in this part of the planet to be worth pulling a permit to do this business anymore at that location, so they're gonna sell it. And the question that we have is there anything that we're supposed to do to make sure that they can sell it? That's theirs to sell it. But I'm just wrestling myself with what happens if someone gets hurt. They're trespassing, so you shouldn't be trespassing there, but someone might be. And if you go over there with whatever vehicle you have and try to go up or down that thing, and you end up getting hurt or get killed on it and buried in it alive, there's a people who make a living going after people about that stuff. So how do we make sure, for aggregate, to make sure, and I hear what you said at the last meeting, is you don't want to do any more, you're all done. So you want, someone's gonna buy it and they're gonna deal with that. And we like to sell it just like that. But if something, the worst that could happen, I don't want the town of Sutton to be in a position where we allowed this business to take existing, and they're gonna come after us for letting it allowed to stay like that. So I don't know what the answer is. Is there anything that in other places, is there anything you do with something like that to make sure no one gets hurt on that? And I'm looking at it with Jen saying, you just put a fence through the middle of it, so they can't, if you put a fence at the bottom or top of that thing, they'll come with my truck and pull it down and play on it. But if you put it in the middle, they can't get to the fence to take it down, so there it sits. And you can't have fun, so you find someplace else to play. But it's kind of like leaving the house unlocked and no door on it, and people start moving in on it. So we don't want anyone to be there. It should be locked. We shouldn't be able to just drive in there, but that's, and we did, but that's just, it should be left so they can do with what they want. And you were great for the town of Sutton. You guys got a whole bunch of real good material out of there, because that's where it all was. So that's why the Mass Pike was there. That's why Boston did all the stuff it did. But that's all done now. So they have every right to close out and move out. And we have to make decisions as a planning board to deal with the next people who are going to move into this. How many acres?
388
And
between.
there's a
Sutton
whole
and Millbrae.
Yeah, and there's a railhead on that piece of property that would be very valuable for someone who had a drone and looked at where it is to the Mass Pike. They gotta figure out a way to try to get there. They can bring everything in on a train, but it's gonna probably get in a truck. It's gotta get to the Mass Pike, and there's a little bridge going to Millbrae that's gonna create a problem for those trucks, so they gotta find a way to get out on 146, but that's our stuff. So that's,
Stuff too, but,
yeah, so that was my drive-through, and I just wanna make it that it leaves in good shape so you can sell it, for myself, but at the same time, I don't want us to be on the hook if someone says we're not doing our job by allowing something like that to be in a property that's doing business in our town. And any other board, what, you all went for the first time, what did you guys think? So, you know what we're thinking, first time for some people, unless they snuck in at night and didn't tell anyone. What'd you think, huh?
My one thing was definitely the keeping it locked up. I mean, we went in and we were greeted by a dog running right at us and a man out walking in his pickup truck, and I don't know if the road we used we were supposed to use, but very easy for people to get on there.
Yep.
So maybe looking at the slopes, and I was there and I walked up a few and the ground was solid, so personally I don't see that coming down being a big issue, I don't think, other than this big one would be the only one that may be something, but even that one didn't seem too bad when you're in person looking up. It's not like it's straight, it's got a little bit of a slope to it, but definitely keeping the gates locked is one way to deter honest people.
So you didn't go in through where the aggregate industry sign is, right? You went in to say a different way?
A different way.
Okay.
2 different ways.
2 different ways.
I know both those ways.
We were in one and out the other.
Mike, what'd you think?
Yeah, I would say just the same thing. I kinda went a different day than they went. And as I was sitting there waiting, somebody came out of it. I'm like, oh, that must be where it is. Somebody was driving out of it. And then while we were in there was another vehicle in there. So I think it was more just the thought, cause it is a bumpy,
Yeah.
you know, the concern of anyone could drive in there right now. I don't know. I was surprised they weren't both. It wasn't harder for us to get in or unlock a gate. I mean, for whatever reason, that particular day, you know, they were both open and
Yep.
in and out, and you know, as I said, a lot of very interesting to see.
It is. It's a great site.
And a lot of it was certainly vegetated over.
Yep.
A lot, you know, I mean, as it was just those couple big. But I thought, you know, the biggest thing is just the access of people and the concern of, you know,
Drive by it all the time, never noticed it.
never noticed.
How do you
didn't
miss
know
that
little
many hundreds
opening.
of acres in your name?
Yeah, and through that one access point with the yellow gate, that's there because the National Grid has an easement.
Right.
So they are quite often in and out of there.
Yeah.
With some regularity.
Yep.
So that part,
It used to be locked and everybody had a particular kind of key. And then somebody put another key on it, cause the water district, National Grid, the town, and Worcester Sand and Gravel access off the end of Hatchery. So that was always locked until 6 months ago, 9 months ago. And then people kept putting the wrong lock on, and then National Grid couldn't get in, or the water district, and they cut the locks off. It was just a nightmare. So I assume that's why it's fully open now. It's the first time I've seen it like that in all 20 plus years, actually 21 years this month that I've been here. So, I don't know, maybe we can have a conversation and get the lock back on that, but,
we're open to that.
Get all the
but,
right
and then the
people in.
other entrance
Yeah.
would probably
Jersey Bear, something.
something,
Yeah.
or,
I mean, if
just a
people wanna
chain.
get in, they're gonna get in,
Yeah,
but
that's-
if you
that's
keep
right
the
off-
honest
that's right
people
off the
honest, it
Public
takes a
road,
lot
that
out of
one,
it.
it's like, okay.
Wally, what'd you think?
I share the opinions, shall I say, of the board members. I don't, the slopes are, you know, what they are, and I assume over Biza might need some of the, that, I was gonna call it dirt, whatever, gravel, sand, whatever it is to build out inside there. My biggest concern was that ravine thing, that, you know, cause I'd never been in there before, but Jen had been in there like 6 months ago when it wasn't there, and now it was
Oh,
pretty
that deep.
significant.
Yeah.
Do you know what we're talking?
I do.
Okay, so, and I don't know, you know, what you would do with that, and I'm certainly not on conservation, so I, I don't know, it just didn't seem,
There's some more, there's one somewhere.
there was water going somewhere.
Yeah.
It wasn't going down.
Scott?
I didn't see it, but I had been in there some years ago, and I would think that there's places to get in trouble there, just like there is in Purgatory Chasm, so people can get hurt anywhere they wanna go,
Mhm.
so I'm not too concerned about it myself, and, that's what I remember.
I concur.
All right, so what I'm hearing is, working on at least the 2 access points we used.
Yep.
Seeing, and I can make some calls on the one, obviously, cause that involves way more than you.
Yeah.
The other one, maybe seeing if there's a way to pop up some timber posts and a chain or something,
We could do that.
you know, just to, so that one is not
You're talking about the Providence Road side.
the Providence Road
I
side,
gotcha.
yeah. And then nothing inside. No fencing, no adjusting of slopes, you're good as long as access is limited.
Yeah.
Cause the
Yeah.
Boston Road side is fully gated locked,
Yeah.
and the
And we
scale
didn't run
house
in.
entrance is gated locked.
Correct.
We didn't see anyone on the Boston Road side, the active zone with the big hill. Didn't see anyone over there while we were in there.
Well, Mike and I were in there was somebody parked over on that end, but
Okay.
not on the, oh yeah, he was actually on the edge of the active
Somebody was there 'cause they
excavation
walked up
area.
Did it look like they were supposed to be there? Do you think it was someone with an easement or no?
No,
No.
Okay.
no. I think it was, I think it was a hunter. I don't think it was anybody playing. I think it was a hunter,
Yeah.
so that,
Yeah.
The one thing I will say, and I know I mentioned this in our last meeting, but we do intend to work with the town to sell. There's a
Big hill.
phase of there's 1.1 million tons of sand, and we intend this year to have that go out to bid, and sooner than later. Actually, I'm just finishing up the verbiage for a easement to come around our side. So we will have somebody, an aggregate employee, would be there full time while that's happening. So that'll certainly deter people from going onto the property when there's an actual operation happening there. And just the amount of trucks that it will need to go in and out of there through Hatchery Road to remove that will be a constant thing. It'll be like during business hours, probably 8 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon or something like that. Removing the gravel it'll take.
so that's the slope up on the screen that he's
Correct, the
talking
better
about.
part of a year. So,
You can see the steepness.
yeah. But beyond that, we can certainly put up barrier or a fence. I'll look into what would be best there, and we can make that happen and do that rather quickly.
So the town owns the most dangerous slope.
You gotta know. It's not easy to find. If you come in from the aggregate
Yeah,
side, you're not gonna find
And that will be,
it.
Yeah.
and the immediate slope will have fencing very quickly. So when you'll still be able to go in the road, but there are 2 posts that exist as you turn to look at the town face, and so
Put
that will
fencing
be
up there.
gated extremely soon. So at least you won't be able to get right into where the steep slope is on the backside,
Okay.
without getting out, and won't have a free pass into the face of that one for too much longer.
So is this something that aggregate should do and then come back to the board with?
That's
Pictures
up
of
to
it
you.
completed or something like that?
Busy, Jim, can't you do that? You don't have to come back. You've been here twice, and we went much later than we were supposed to be.
Can't we?
That's fine, I
Yeah.
mean, but you're gonna need to do basically a
Okay.
motion to close out the permit. So you need to do a motion to close out the permit contingent on something, or you need to do a motion to close out the permit after you see stuff. So you just gotta decide on the timing.
Any
And release
help
the,
on the
and
public
that
that's here,
closeout
by
is
the way?
releasing the bond too, the existing bond.
The bond to the reclamation bond.
Anyone here that has 2 cents they can throw into the conversation, happy to have you here. No? All right. Give everyone a chance. Yeah.
What do you think?
What'd you say about the bond? We have one,
When
we
you,
have one?
yeah, we have a bond on this. I think it's actually no, this one's the big one.
It's a big one.
It's $768,000 and change. And that's strictly for, reclamation should somebody walk. So when you close out the earth removal permit, your part of that is releasing the bond.
So I'll make a a motion to close out contingent on seeing steps made to limit access to the property.
Reasonable measures to limit access.
Yeah, and put a, what, 60 days, 90 days, or whatever.
Sure.
Is that
That's reasonable. Call it
Is that-
60.
60 days,
60?
and if steps are made within that time, then we'll close out the permit.
I'm just seeing how that's gonna, yeah, cause none of
So
it
it'd be
really
April
goes
fif-
on file. Yeah,
April
you're fine.
15th?
June,
Mhm.
that's 45, oh, yeah, okay, yeah,
Yes,
Okay.
end of April?
end of April.
Yeah, it's not gonna take us long.
Didn't you indicate there was something could be happening soon?
Yes. With several interested parties, so we're still reviewing offers.
Got a call from a whole different one again today.
Oh, it doesn't stop.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time on the phone. A lot of time.
That's it.
So, all right,
Can I just
so,
a question for you, Jen?
Yep.
If I could, so if the permit closes out and the bond is closed out or expired, right?
I think it was one.
And then what happens if, for whatever reason, a buyer doesn't come for a year, or it gets extended?
You've just closed
It's
it out.
just kinda
It just
closed
stays-
out?
Just sits.
It
It
just
just
sits.
sits with the, I mean, is that
That
an
ground
undue
cover,
risk
that's
of,
correct.
That's
Ground
what this
cover
was
says.
kind of all
you know
about.
what I
on the
mean,
ground,
that
yeah.
would be the only, I mean, I don't,
That's,
you- I mean,
that's what this process is about.
cause,
If
'cause
you're
I'm
okay
wondering,
with
do you
that.
go on the assumption that it's gonna sell quick and okay, it moves your hands and it's gone? Things happen sometimes in sales and it could linger on
ground
6
cover will
months,
be
9 months,
covered.
and a year.
That ground cover is gonna be everywhere, that grows everywhere, that ground cover.
You make a fair point. The likelihood of that happening, I'd say, is very small.
But I don't think we should assume it's gonna be sold.
Well, that's just the point I'm thinking, right?
Things do happen.
So, yeah. The problem is, you know, when you start tying this to, and we're gonna revisit this in a
Right,
year.
right.
You're closing out or you're not closing out.
That's
You're
it.
either not closing it out and you make them carry a portion of the bond or all of the bond to make sure it transfers hands and starts through the, or you just say, look, limit access and
They own it until they sell to someone,
Yeah,
just,
and we'll meet the new owners. They'll have new plans.
so it's, I mean, there's always a risk. Anybody can sue
60
anybody over
days.
anything.
Yeah.
And would they prevail? Maybe not. It's just the money you'd spend in the meantime.
It's not our stuff, yeah.
okay.
Pictures, receipts, is that sufficient to show the work is done?
Yeah, you can let me know too. I'll
Okay.
make sure.
I wanna talk to you afterwards, so
Yeah, 'cause I
that we
didn't
know
get-
we're talking about the same spot.
Yep.
Just wanna
Okay.
verify.
Okay.
All right,
That was the motion?
so Kyle had the motion.
Kyle did, I'll second it.
Put 60 days on it?
60 days is in the motion.
Yeah, but he didn't address the bond in that, I don't think, right?
And release the bond. It'll close out the, you'd close out the permit and release the bond.
Or do we release a portion of the bond?
You could have an update if it helps. In 60 days, I'll be back here with the access being taken care of. I can give you an update at that point where we are. We may very well be under contract at that point, which might help you in your decision.
What do you think?
So the bond stays for 60
The
days?
bond stays for
in
60
place.
days for further review, another review at
Yeah.
that time.
Unless something happens real fast, we can go faster.
Yeah.
If we need to.
Okay.
All right? Good, we're on the same page. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained.
Good, thank you for your time,
Good.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
All right.
25.
25.
All right, see. This is
725
Diane.
is the Worcester Sand and Gravel.
All right, you guys made me do homework. So. This is Mike Trotta. So we're talking
Mike.
ownership at Worcester Sand and Gravel.
Oh, yeah.
Ownership. No more engineers.
No, actually, we sold last week.
Oh! Oh, that's right. Yes. But it's still, yeah.
We
It's,
sold the company, we didn't sell the property.
right, exactly. So
Congratulations,
Mhm.
you're out.
Earth removal.
Retirement.
I'll still be there.
Yes, there's still, yes. So, we have an updated plan from the engineers with the few things I asked them to adjust on there, so those are taken care of. The big question you had was brought up by Scott. It was that last paragraph in the, bond rider, basically. So I had a conversation with
Oh, yeah.
some general insurance people, and then I also pulled, so you could see, so this is the paragraph that you're a little uncomfortable with. This bond may be canceled by the surety 30 days after written notice of cancellation has been sent to the applicant, which is the town. That language made some of us a little uncomfortable. So just for the heck of it, I did go and found the other bond riders for pine, sand, and stone, and for aggregate, and you can see, they both had the exact same wording in them. So I did talk to, a general insurance agent, and I put a call into their specific insurance agent, and P.S., these are all different insurance agents, and all are different insurance companies. So it's not like all of them were Utica Mutual. There's a Utica Mutual, there's a Western, and there's a NGM Insurance. So these are all different insurance companies, all using the same phrase. So the general insurance person I talked to said, look, every insurance company has to have, every bond has collateral. It may be a percentage of the bond amount held in an account. It may be property, it may be a mortgage, it may be all of these insurance bonds have some kind of collateral. They're usually cash, a cash payment. And that, among other reasons, and I'll get into the other reasons, if something changes with that collateral or with the solvency of the company, the insurance bond company has to be able to cover their behind, so to speak, and be able to get out of their, so if Worcester Sand dissolves, the insurance company needs to get out of that bond, not become responsible for what was bonded. They need to be able to back out of it too, which is why this clause is in here. Now, they have to give you 30 days notice. If you get the 30 days notice, you would reach right out to whoever, Worcester Sand, and say, look, you're gonna get, your permit's gonna get pulled, or you're gonna get a cease and desist until a new bond is in place. So it gives you a reasonable period of time to do something. So then I talked specifically to Rose, who works for your insurance agency, and she said it's actually broader than even that. She said, most insurance companies don't just issue earth removal bonds. They issue a myriad, a whole rainbow of different kinds of bonds. And she said what happens a lot in the industry is that a company will review once a year or whatever, the range of bonds it carries. And obviously construction bonds are more risky in different time periods than life insurance bonds or whatever. So a company may look at their whole portfolio and go, ooh, we have too much exposure in earth removal bonds. And so they'll try to pull down the amount of those that are out there. Some companies often just get out of a whole range of bonds. And they'll, maybe sell those to another company, but in the meantime, they need to notify all the obligees that this change is gonna take place. So she said that's what she sees more, and not a lot, but that's what she sees more than usual. Not so much a company going insolvent, though that does help cover them, but that bond companies trade off the kind of bonds that they carry. They'll reduce bonds in this realm and increase them in this realm. It's just part of their business plan. So all of them have this phrase in there to allow them the ability to operate their business with some safety on their part to kind of protect themselves. So, and I did ask, because I said, I gotta ask you, Rose, any chance you can change that language? And she said, there is virtually no chance I can change that language for you. So, the only thing you could potentially do is do a performance agreement that gets into this, but it's backed by a bond that has specific language, so I don't know how enforceable that is.
Yeah, so there must be a variety of bonds. A performance and payment bond in the construction business, this is not an option. When that company goes down, that bonding company pays up. So these people seem to have a different ability in bonding this type of operation.
Like I said she didn't see it so much in insolvency as just a bond company deciding they're not doing that kind of bond, or they're not doing as many of those kind of bonds anymore.
But you've never seen that happen, Jen.
Insurance bonds? No.
Oh, like,
What?
canceling out a bond out of nowhere.
No, never. No.
No, you don't
I've seen
you don't see
tri-party
it.
agreements go south with
Yeah,
a
well,
bank failing.
tri-parties all went south.
Yeah,
That's-
I've seen banks go and kill our tri-party agreements, but no, we've actually never had an issue with an insurance bond, and we've had the villa's insurance bonds all paid out with little or no issue. 2 different insurance companies were involved there.
And earth removal is a whole different
Yeah,
It's a different
animal
animal.
than
I
a
bet you
development.
there's different language in
Oh, yeah.
Pleasant Valley bonds, construction bonds than this.
Than this, yep,
Yeah.
probably. So
Worth
that's
asking
where
the
this,
question then.
that's where this stands. So you do have a bond with the standard language. It is good until December 31st of the end of this year. So his bond is up to date, which is awesome. And the plans have been revised. They're all up to date, and they accurately show what's on site and the monitoring well readings, and we're good to go. So on this one, you just, you have a memo from me that I gave you for the first meeting. It's dated January 24th, 2020. And should you choose to approve this 1-year extension, because that's what this one is, I would recommend the 3 general conditions and the, actually you don't need the special conditions because the engineers have already fixed the plans in accordance with that 4th condition I recommended. So you just need the general conditions here. So, and those are,
This is the one that you put another water well in, monitoring well?
We didn't put it.
no, that was Pine.
Oh, Pine.
That was Pine. So, no, this one, he has, the wells we're reading are right behind, what would be the active area, although you've just heard him tell you it's not really gonna be that active. So,
You wanna make that in the form of a motion? Sure.
I'll make a motion for the earth removal permit renewal for Worcester Sand and Gravel, with 3 general conditions. Failure to comply with all conditions of this permit in all sections of the town of Sutton earth removal bylaw, which are part of this permit and are attached herewith, will result in a cease and desist order or fines. Number 2, approval permitting special requirements of all other applicable local, state, and federal agencies with a copy of said decisions permits provided to the planning board. And number 3, no drilling or blasting allowed in this area of the pit.
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion?
So this is the site we went to, Jen, that had the old metal big
Yeah.
piece of
yeah,
machinery
the old piece
on
of
it.
machinery, one left. There were more than that, now there's just that one.
Yeah, I don't know why it's even there.
That's the only thing that I don't like there, 'cause I know as a kid, when I was a kid, I'd love to play all over that thing, and
No, that was supposed to get
that's-
scrapped over a year ago.
okay.
I don't know what
You could
happened.
steal it.
no.
No, you could not.
That,
Take it. Put it in your
that looks like
backyard.
that looks like tetanus on wheels to me.
25 feet long, and I think it's been there for 35 years.
Oh,
Okay.
So you intend to get that
Tetanus on
scrapped, it
wheels.
Yeah, I
just,
thought it, I'll have to ask my cousin, I thought it was scrapped with
Okay.
the rest of the plan.
Yeah, it's the only thing that worries me there, 'cause
Yeah.
I know kids would climb all over that, and any sharp piece of metal on that, you're gonna get. So,
I mean, we can cut that up ourselves, that's.
okay. I'm good then.
All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
I'm
Opposed?
sorry, who was the
Would you-
second? Were you,
The guy was.
you were, Scott? That was a
Did we
5?
put that as a condition?
Yeah,
The removal,
Scrap
of
it.
removal.
the tetanus on wheels?
You do have that in quotes, I can see.
I think the wheels are a little gone at this point too, but
Price of scrap isn't going up either.
Mike, do you wanna amend your
More to get
motion?
off the property than you're gonna get paid for.
If you were going to scrap that, about how much time would it take you, do you think?
It'll probably take a few days.
So if we give you a month or 6 weeks?
Yeah, sure.
So I'll pull my second on that, if he wants some changes.
Amend the motion to add, removal of that metal,
Tennis on wheels within 6 weeks.
metal on wheels, if you could within 6 weeks, would be, condition number 4.
Awesome,
Second that.
perfect.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Good job.
I'll put that all in writing for you within the next few days.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you very much. Nice meeting you all.
Yeah, sure, thank you.
Alright, that's the hard work. Okay, we gotta make some decisions. Okay. So we need to decide, because you saw the calendar for Springtown. What ones you wanna tackle, if there's anything you need to tackle for Springtown meeting.
I'd say we need to tackle, the marijuana business overlay for Springtown meeting for sure.
Yeah, very time sensitive.
Sooner than later on that one.
And so the question is, where do you want the new MBOD to be? Now, you'll recall, in Sutton, you can't do retail. Medical, you can't restrict in any way, shape, or form, so you can have a dispensary. So you can do a medical dispensary, but you can't do recreational store or dispensary in Sutton. And then, other than the sales, you can do anything. So you can grow recreation or medical, you can distribute recreation or medical, you can have a lab testing for recreation or medical. So you gotta think of where you're good with that.
I think the most logical one, if we had already done the zoning, would be the aggregate property, but I don't think that's viable right now, is it?
Yeah, I mean, you have an OLI district up there, so you could either, you could maybe put it on the OLI side of that site if you look to the zoning map.
Included as a use in the OLI district.
Right,
Well-
that's,
Well,
that
we
was,
have a,
talked about that before, that's the easiest way to do this.
Yeah, you could definitely do that, instead of having a overlay.
'Cause
the
right now we have an
MDOD
overlay.
You could
Right.
just add it as an allowed, those as
Well, if we
allowed or
allow it
special
in the
permit.
OLI, it's allowed in every OLI, right?
Yep. It
Whereas
is.
the overlay, we can just overlay wherever we want.
That would be,
So if we go to the, I'm sorry, let me find one.
that's only
Right here.
something too.
So if we
Well,
go
South
to the
Sutton,
zoning
this-
map,
This one.
This aggregate piece.
so if we go to the zoning map, so everything orange
Yeah.
is OLI. So South Sutton Commerce Park is out, cause that's where our MBOD is right now, it's all full. East of 146 there, you have the National Grid facility, that's all
Full.
full. So you have, the area we were talking about at the last town meeting, south of Oakhurst Road.
Suburban, or whatever that is.
So you have this area.
What's the R2?
So how many parcels do we have left in the OLI that are,
And that is
Well, you have
only-
a good number, I
This
mean,
used
you
to be
have,
purple,
you
now it's
know,
green.
this whole OLI area,
I'm just thinking moving forward so we don't run into the same issue that we're running into right now,
right.
if we do enough space.
I mean, if you throw it as an allowed use in the OLI, you're talking all of that area, and then you're talking all of this area in South Sutton. And obviously, the land above Oakhurst Road is all occupied by solar.
The bigger issue, I think, is the multi-town mixed-use district. That
Yeah.
question is the bigger item in my book
Yeah.
on your list.
So, if you change this area to MTMC, like we were gonna do, and just do a little bit more public work on that, and then added the use to the OLI, then.
That just covers up on the
Then
aggregate.
it just covers here and the existing. So like if you changed all of the OLI in South Sutton, like all of this to MTMC,
Hmm.
with the restricted list of uses you were looking for at that, and you don't put it there, and you just add it up here, then you've certainly, and the one good thing about marijuana, in terms of trip generation, so like 500,000 square feet, and I don't mean that kind of trip. Trip generation. So if you have 500,000 square feet of growing, that generates a lot less trips than 500,000 square feet of warehouse and distribution. A lot less.
Which would be good up in that.
Which would be good up in that, or would be way more acceptable anyways up in that area. So, do you want me to draft that so you can at least see what the articles look like?
And so we wanna present in the spring the designation of the South Sutton OLI to be multi-town mixed-use district. That's what we're, like we did in the fall that did not pass.
Yeah, and we need to talk about the details of that, like if we wanna keep that high height, or if we just want it to be 45 feet consistent with the Route 146 overlay that you can do now, or if you want some language in there that you could go higher for special. So we need to talk about the details of that.
Okay.
But if we did that, and then just like Bill said, add the marijuana uses to the OLI by whatever mechanism they can, special permit or permitted, whatever the law says they can be.
Yeah.
Then you're really just, targeting them there.
That makes the most sense to me, I think.
I agree.
And if the multi-town doesn't pass, you just have extra space for the marijuana overlay in South Sutton, which that land then can go to use for something, I guess.
Well, it's still it'll be in the OLI, and there's
Yeah.
2 locations for OLI,
Yep.
not just one.
Not just one, yeah.
Not just one.
What kind of impact can they have? You said the growing doesn't have the impact, but distribution?
No, the growing operations, you obviously, once you grow it, you're distributing it to the retail stores or the medical locations.
Right.
The trips generated on those kind of uses are way lower
Okay,
than, say,
I
a
agree.
distribution facility for like Home Depot.
Oh, than a regular
So-
distribution facility.
So it's
Moving refrigerators is a lot more trips than moving.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, what's the impact that what are we afraid of here, I guess, what's the concern?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, then it's
but
marijuana.
We visited, Ken and I visited one in,
Milford.
Milford, 2 or 3 years ago, that was just for medical,
Yeah.
and, you know,
Was it
there were a few,
growing?
well, yeah, it was a grow facility, but, I mean, you wouldn't even know it was there for starters, you know, cars are just the employees, there weren't trucks pulling in and out. I think in the morning, they had a regular schedule in the morning.
Well, yeah, and you
they
don't
went
have
out.
tractor trailers
Yeah,
generally
no,
pulling
no.
out of these facilities.
Sure.
You have
They're
box
secure
trucks.
vans,
Yeah.
secure smaller vehicles going to 2 dispensaries or 3.
Yeah, they had 3.
You don't bring tractor trailers
In
out
Greater
of them.
Boston. So they just, I'm sure, just put it in a box truck or a van, and off they go, cause the products aren't big, you know, the medical things, like a little salve jar or something.
Right.
So you get a lot of stuff, product in one van.
Jen, is there anything else, I don't know what it is there something else that we're not thinking about that's on the horizon, that's growing that we don't see coming yet? That's a challenge for us
In
as
terms of
planners.
uses? No, if we lived
Because we
on the
have-
coast, I'd say we should all
having-
invest
having
into
a rail s-
salinization plants.
Having a rail spur
We don't need it.
into that aggregate
We're good.
Well, I think,
is
Lots of water.
really important, but is marijuana gonna use a spur?
It might, but,
Go on.
no, I mean, but we're talking a lot of acreage up there. And
Yeah.
I have talked to different users who wanted to be in that area, and like, and one that was huge warehouse distribution.
Yeah.
And they're huge, and one of their selling points was half of their trips come in on the rail, which I was so excited about. But
Does it
then they
go
made
out?
it very clear that, so the incoming comes in on rail, all the outgoing goes out on trucks.
Is there
And
any-
the number was insane. So, it
Is there
wouldn't-
any trail that goes out on a train too? Is there a business that
Well, I'm sure there might be.
use the trail that doesn't solve the traffic problem on the road?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know, I don't know
I don't
of
know,
any
I'm
company that
just-
does everything on the train. Cause so many things bring in raw materials on the train.
Right.
Then they do something and then it goes out on a truck.
Right.
That's a very common
It's a question
model.
to ask someone in
Even
the rail.
J&G Foods, all their
Yeah.
and polyvinyl films, all their raw materials, or a lot of their raw materials
Right.
come in on the
Right.
train, and then they
But nothing leaves
package
on the
their
train.
Wegman chicken breasts, and they go out in a refrigerated
Right.
truck.
Right.
Nothing leaves on the train.
I'm not saying nothing
Yeah.
does, I just don't know what it is.
I just don't know if there's something that we're
All of
thinking
the
about.
conversations I've had.
Everyone's thinking about marijuana. The bus
No,
is already
yeah,
at the
that's-
station.
Yeah, I don't know
It's
that we'll
gone.
get the uses, but
Yeah.
if we did.
But we have to have a place to put
But we
it.
have to have a
Place
place,
to put
Yeah,
or
yeah,
it can
so,
go
yeah.
on West Sutton Road, or
Yeah.
8 Lots Road, wherever. So
No,
we
no,
have to have
that's,
a
that's the
place.
logical spot, but I just don't, I don't know.
Longview Farm, that'd be a nice place.
Longview Farm.
Yeah, there
Longview
you go.
Farm, you want it at Bob's house? Yeah. Alright, so let's,
Tackle those two for Springtown meeting.
yeah, so what do you want me to do for homework?
That's
I
fine.
mean, I can, you wanna take a good look at the office light industrial use table and make sure you still
Yeah.
think all of those are the good, and they're clear uses. And then take a look at the old multi-town mixed use
Yeah,
article.
if we're making a change to OLI, we might as well go through and make sure it's clean and
Right,
make
clear.
the changes while we're making the changes.
Right, cause I think you have stuff like, commercial dog kennels. Do you think that's highest and best use in the OLI? Maybe not. So, maybe you, while you're cleaning things up, you clean them up.
Yeah.
The other thing I want you to take a look at, which might be a little out there, but, one of the big developers, the one that called me today, international developer, asked if we had a PBD, which is Planned Business Development Bylaw, which is an overlay. In our town, it's actually called it's PUD, Planned Unit Development. Ours is called Planned Business Development. It's on page 80. Take a look at that bylaw. That allows you to, in our town, any area that is in the business district, the office light industrial district, or the industrial districts, that is all under one ownership, you can develop as a planned business development. It basically becomes an overlay of that area, and you can do any of the allowed uses kind of as a big master plan, basically. So they asked if we had that bylaw. I told them we had that bylaw, but I thought it was probably relatively antiquated because it was put in 2000 and hasn't been, not one word of it has been changed since 2000. So they were looking at maybe doing a development under that bylaw, because it allows you, it's kinda like if South Sutton Commerce Park was all developed by one developer, you know, and it was, and it allows you to have some, well, I thought it should allow you to have things closer together or shared. The bylaw we have isn't friendly that way, it doesn't read that way. So that's the other one to kind of look
So
at in
maybe
terms of.
looking at the aggregate property to buy the whole thing and develop it as one
Yeah, this
whole.
developer was, I assume, asking for a reason.
Yeah.
If we had that bylaw.
So you wanna take a look at that.
So take a look at that planned business development bylaw, cause when I read it, and you know our setbacks, we have 50-foot setbacks, I don't read it as that friendly, as that encouraging of this nice master planned development, that it's supposed to be if it's planned that way, it's supposed to be friendlier or easier or have some give to it. I'm not, I read it and I'm like, I don't know why you'd do it through that bylaw. So take a look at that one.
So this would be an application for an overlay district on that OLA property.
Well, actually, it's not even they'd apply for a PBD special permit.
Overlay.
Yeah, it's weird. Read the language, it's that confusing.
So probably need to clean it up a little bit.
Cause it says you can do it anywhere in the OLI, I think you have to define the boundaries of it, so in effect, it's an overlay, but it's not an overlay that goes to town meeting and gets voted. They have to define the boundaries of their development in their application. Town meeting has already said you can do this anywhere in the OLI, anywhere in the I, and anywhere in the business district, part of the application is drawing a line around the tract that has to be under one ownership. That will be developed as one project.
Yep.
So, and again, this is the only development that's asked me about this, but like I said, this was
Yeah, big one.
today's people and they are big.
So if we were to look at it in this manner, have a planned development, so there's a mixture of business, some industrial, some different types of things going on here, even residential.
Yeah, well, you don't have to mix it. It can be one of a kind, but it allows that mixing.
Maybe part of the stipulation for our concern called traffic
Uh-huh.
is that, and I don't know how you define it, but the traffic study that they would do maybe would ensure that it meets the traffic restrictions that are placed on it. 'Cause that's what we're worried about.
So it doesn't overtax the system.
So you're limited to X number of trucks a day and X number of cars a day, and that has to be demonstrated in the traffic plan, that this 388 acres
Yeah.
doesn't overtax the intersection that was just built.
Yeah, and or you do improvements to the system.
Or you do improvements.
Right. Now, that was the other thing, I'm glad you mentioned that, cause I wanted to update you on this, because I told you I got some funds and I'm working with Mass DOT and CMRPC.
Yeah, good.
On the traffic studies. So the first kind of rough model of this area and the areas that could be easily skeeved out and developed as something was sent to CMRPC, and they started building what's called the base modeling template, basically. So for them to build the base modeling template and start plugging things in, say, all right, say if we put 200 apartments or cottages here in the front, and then we did 400,000 square foot industrial buildings up here, and they run the calcs, it will take them up to 6 weeks, so 4 to 6 weeks, which frankly, for an evaluation of traffic on a complicated system for this many acres, is not bad, 4 to 6 weeks, to get back to us and say, here's the different kinds of uses, the kind of impacts they have, so you can kind of decide if you want to, cause you can size limit in your use table too, so you can say industrial, manufacturing buildings up to
Up to
400,000 square feet. You
Right.
know, so you can do, but we won't have those numbers to kind of finesse things for 4 to 6 weeks,
Which is too late to submit anything to.
which is after the deadline for Springtown meeting. That doesn't mean I don't think we should do something in terms of finessing, but that's why I said at the beginning of the meeting, and 2 of the development firms have asked me, because they know we're doing this modeling and we're not gonna make a knee-jerk reaction without having some facts in front of us. You know, how the town would, or the board would feel about a special, and I said, you know, we'd rather not do specials, but if you file a warrant or the board thinks it's a worthy planning initiative, we've done specials, you know, it's not like we've never done a special town meeting.
Special town meeting.
Right. So,
6 weeks from now is roughly our deadline for the article.
the 13th of March is
It
when
was the
the
30th.
warrant closes, no,
No,
13th.
4 weeks away.
Now, here's, the good news is, we have to have pretty good draft articles, so almost there articles. But we still only have like a week or 2 of wiggle room after that to perfect them, because we have to advertise in those 2 weeks after, cause we have to have the hearing in our first meeting in April, to allow the finance committee to then have their hearing, to allow them, meet the deadlines for the selectmen to post the warrant.
So in a perfect
So-
situation would be that it comes in 4 weeks, and it's a package that we can work with that doesn't have a bunch of questions.
Right.
Then we're in possession to move forward.
I
If
think
it
we
looks
should
like
aim-
this is a can of worms,
Right.
then we just pull it, say.
Just pull it.
Yeah, I think we should aim.
we go
We
down the
plan
road
on
and
doing
if
it,
we
but
need to
if
just
if
pull it.
it's not gonna go, then
Yeah.
let's not, but
Right.
how do we know unless we,
Right.
Yeah.
let's
start somewhere.
present that
Be
everything's gonna be
optimistic.
4 weeks out, and it's gonna be crystal clear the path that we should be using.
Right, and the only other thing I'd like to do, based on what happened at Fall Town meeting and not really having time to talk to anybody outside of the selectmen and the finance committee about these articles, is I'd like to try to schedule just one meeting, maybe on a Thursday night or a Wednesday night, where all we're doing, once we get kind of the draft article together, which won't take long,
They're
to
working on the
just have
article.
only that on our agenda, and then let people know on social media or whatever that we're talking about this, so if you wanna come learn
Yeah.
about it. And then we can film that meeting, we can get it out there, so people at least, if they wanna know,
Yeah,
will
they will
know
know.
what we're doing. And can have input on just that one thing, so we won't be talking about anything else in that meeting except for the articles.
Good idea.
Sounds good to me.
That's good.
Good planning.
Well, maybe it could be a Monday between meetings, that one,
Yeah.
whatever that one is.
On a Monday between
Oh,
meetings.
yeah, sure,
Or a Monday
like on
night's
an
off.
off Monday, yeah, sure, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I'm fine.
Okay.
I'll do a Google poll.
Yeah.
I'll send yours in paper.
Do it on the other Monday, yeah.
So
do
it won't
Monday.
be released.
Okay, so I'll draft some language to add the use to the OLI,
And see what we can.
and and then I'm gonna mail, do you want me to mail you or email you or both? The OLI bylaw, everything you need to kinda go through. You want me to just
Okay,
mail
if
and
you,
email you everything?
Yeah.
Alright. Alright, and then I'll be working on the open space plan on the side, and I just need you guys to kinda give me information and kinda tag in, but that'll be summer through the winter. So we'll be ready with a new plan before the end of the year.
The disadvantage of the overlay is that if they do not choose to use the overlay, then they build it as per allowance under the OLI. But the overlay is an option. Right?
Oh, the planned business
an
development,
option.
it's an option.
It's an option.
Right, and when you read it, I think of, you do these things so they're more attractive to you, so you want them to develop it as, with like an overall master plan, so it all jives better. So you usually put things in there to entice them to use that. Height is limited to 35 feet, period, in this PBD. You can get 45 feet in the Route 146 overlay. So why would you, okay, so it's not that attractive is what I'm saying, and the setbacks aren't any less, it's, yeah, read it.
Who wrote it?
A consultant who used to work for the regional planning agency way back in the 90s, so, yeah.
These are changes.
And I guarantee you, with a lot of planning things, if it's not, people just take from another town or another area. You know, so it might be
Change.
totally wonderful and lax in some town in Western Mass, but here, when you compare it to our other regs, it's not generous, really. So, it needs some fixing.
It's 8:36, unless someone public wants to bring something up, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good.
Thank you.